We're learning the Sicho of Shabbos Parshas Chayah Mevarchim Kislev, which also this week is Shabbos Mevarchim Kislev. A very, very powerful mimer that leads up to this Farbrengen. So the Rebbe starts the Farbrengen like this. So he says the mimer Divra Maskell, starting with the pasuk Vayiyu Chayah Sarah. Koydem Ascholas HaMimer, before the Rebbe starts to say the mimer again. This is the first Parshas Chayah Sarah after the Rebbe accepted upon himself the Nasius, the leadership. So the Rebbe says, "Koydem ascholas hamaimer hisker k'vayikdushas ad mishlita." Before the mimer, the Rebbe mentioned Kushis hazohar, the Zohar's question, "Bascholas parshaseinu," that's in the beginning of this week's parsha. Shehuva gam bascholas hamaimer. The Rebbe quotes this question in the mimer. This is the foundation of the mimer. That the question is, "Ma'ishna hachas Sarah dechsiv misa be'iraisa mikol nishay dalma." What's special about Sarah? What's unique about Sarah? That the Torah tells us about her death from all the other women in the Torah. There's also women included, like Chava. We don't know Chava, or the other woman. Obviously, it talks about Rachel. We know that she passes away, or Miriam that she passes away. But the Torah doesn't tell us all the dates like it does by Sarah. It doesn't say. Even other women that are mentioned in the Torah that they pass away, like I said, Rachel and Miriam, they don't get mentioned their days and their years, like Sarah lived 127 years. But even though, in general, traditionally, the woman's death isn't mentioned in the Torah. We don't find anywhere when Leah passes away. We get a hint to when Rivka passes away. We don't have the other great women are not mentioned. Chava is Heichel Michava. Chava Shlei Nimna v'Yichaya Chava. We don't know the life of Chava, but we do know her husband Adam. Yesh l'haisav b'kushis haZohar. The Rebbe adds to the Zohar's question. Shematzina b'Gemara, we find that the Talmud teaches us Shesara b'fnei Chava k'koif b'fnei Adam. That Sarah, the Zohar says. And the mimer actually flips it around, but that's for the mimer. So the Gemara actually says that Sarah, in comparison to Chava, is like a monkey to a person. I'm just repeating it because that's what the Gemara says. Hainu ma'alasa means say I wouldn't have the chutzpah to say something like that, but the Gemara says that Sarah before Chava is like a koif, is like a monkey before a person. Hainu shema'alasa shachava gedoil vein arech. How great was Chava? She was so great. The Gabi Mailasa Sarah, in comparison to Sarah, that Sarah is considered like a monkey before Chava. The Alpha PK, nevertheless, nevertheless, bottom line is, who do we know the life? Who does the Torah tell us? A complete story of the life of a woman is Sarah, not Chava. And the Mimer goes on to explain that the whole point of Sarah is that Sarah fixes Chava. All the mistakes that Chava made, as great as she was, notwithstanding as great as she and Adam were, but at the end of the day, is they did big mistakes that the whole world suffers from it, death, etc. Again, I'm not trying to step on Chava's honor, God forbid, but just the way it is. And Sarah had to fix Chava's what happened with the Chet Eitzadas. So that's for the mimer. That's something else. But that's how the Rebbe starts off the Farbrengen. It's very interesting that the Gemara would compare Sarah to Chava to such a way. All right, so now the Rebbe is going to talk about the mimer in the continuation of the Farbrengen. So the Rebbe said the mimer. The Rebbe said like this: Ha'amar li'ol b'mimer. This that we say in the mimer before. About the life of Sarah. These are the days of Sarah. The Rebbe asked in the mimer, why does it say twice Chayah Sarah, Vayiyu Chayah Sarah, and then it says that she lived 127 years. These are the days of Sarah. Why do we repeat it? Chayah gam l'toichen hazman shekorim b'parshas Chayah Sarah. It's also this the idea that we talk about in the mimer, which the point of the mimer is that a person has to have simcha with bittul, simcha with humility, and to do that you have to have Kabbalah soul. It has to be about serving Hashem. Is the time that we learn we always read Chayah Sarah. But Shanim, like in many years, like this year, in our year also, is Shabbos and Farachim Chodesh Kislev, is the Shabbos that we bless the month of Kislev. Ubahagdama, the Rebbe says. I mean, I guess it's possible for Shabbos and Farachim to fall out on maybe Shabbos Vayera. Ubahagdama, because told is for sure not, I don't think. Ubahagdama. Sheyema Shabbos Kodesh Zeh Koil as Kol Yimei HaShavua Haba. The Shabbos includes in it, like we've talked many times, all the days following Shabbos. Shebeneim Gam Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and one of the days that's going to happen is Rosh Chodesh Kislev. V'kiven Rosh Chodesh Koil as Kol Yimei HaChodesh, and Rosh Chodesh has within it all the days of the month. How you doing, Shana? All the days of the month. We're on page 127, Sif Beis. So we're talking about just connecting the idea of Chayah Sarah. We just started to talk about the idea of connecting Chayah Sarah to the month of Kislev. So the parsha of Chayah Sarah is always read sometimes around Shabbos Mevarach and Kislev, and therefore they bless the month of Kislev. So it has in it all the days of the week are included in Shabbos, and one of them is the day of the Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and the day of Rosh Chodesh Kislev, V'kiven Rosh Chodesh Koil as Kol Yimei HaChodesh. And because Rosh Chodesh has in it all the days of the month, Nimsa Sheyema Shabbos Kodesh Zeh, Yom Shabbos Kodesh Zeh. This Shabbos means the Shabbos that blesses the month of Kislev, because the day of Rosh Chodesh is in that Shabbos, and therefore the Shabbos has within it all the power of the days of the week, and one of the days of the week has the power of all the days of the month. Means Shabbos Mevarachim Kodesh Kislev Koil is Kol Yimei Chodesh Kislev. So the Rebbe's point is that within already Shabbos Mevarachim Kislev, we talked about this idea in other times. Within the Shabbos Mevarachim Kislev, we already have all the power, all the energy of the month of Kislev. We know in Chassidus, Kislev is a huge month because it's Yutas Kislev and Yud Kislev and Chav Kislev, and by the Rebbe it's Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So it's a month of Geula and redemption. And the Rebbe says if that's the case, and we're sitting on Shabbos now, and this day includes within it all the energy, all the days of the month of Kislev, and then we read the Parsha of Chayah Sarah. There must be a connection between Chayah Sarah and the message of the month of Kislev. So the Rebbe is going to go into explain that. What is the idea of the month of Kislev? Chodesh Kislev, the month of Kislev is Chodesh Geula, the month of redemption. Hashem HaGeula de Chanukah, it's known as the month of redemption, starting in our history with the Geula, the redemption of the story of the miracle of Chanukah. And HaGeula de Torah HaChasidus, and the redemption of the teachings of Chassidus that happened on Yutes Kislev, Kitla Kalmon, as the Rebbe says, I'll explain later. We'll see if we get there. Chodesh Nisan, just like Chodesh Nisan, Shenikar b'Chazal, that's called by the rabbis Chodesh HaGeula, the month of Geula, because it includes in it the month of the holiday of Pesach, which is the redemption of Mitzrayim. Yisayrim is that the Rebbe says even more than that. Sheshmaila b'Geula the Kislev b'Gab Geula de Nisan. There's something unique about Kislev versus even the month of Nisan. Hageula de Nisan, Yitzias Mitzrayim, he Yitzia me Hagolus. What happened in Nisan is in Nisan we left Mitzrayim, i.e., we left Golus, we left exile. And after that, what happened after that? We left Golus, but we went back into Golus, right? Maybe not as extreme as Mitzrayim, but we experienced Golus as we are sitting here right now. So much so. A person could reach such a level of galus in times that the person may even forget that there's such a thing, that there was a redemption ever, right? Unfortunately, again, these things are being awakened again today. So in order for a person to remember Mitzrayim, because you could be sitting in a situation where you're not thinking, whether in your own personal life, you're sitting in real deep galus, or in general, the Jewish people are in galus. In order, if we don't make a special memory for Mitzrayim, a person may forget about the concept of Yitzias Mitzrayim. You're not feeling it. So that's about Chodesh Nisan. However, Bachidish the Kislev, what's unique about Kislev? Shabai Haisa Geula de Chanukah, Shehi Geula Shnasis Bizmana Galus. It's a very powerful word the Rebbe says that the Geula. See, when you have when the definition of your redemption is to change your reality, right? That you were in Mitzrayim on the 14th and you left Mitzrayim on the 15th. So anytime you go back into the reality of the 14th, it's hard to remember the 15th, right? The 15th of Nisan being the day we left Mitzrayim. So if you're in the 4th, if a person feels in their life any gullus, every time they're feeling the concept of Mitzrayim strain in their life, it challenges the message of Geula, right? Because how can I feel Geula? I feel like I'm living deep in Mitzrayim again. Because my whole Geula feeling, my whole redemption is based on leaving the Galus and leaving the exile. So every time I see exile, I feel it's a challenge to my feeling for Geula. What's Kislev? The Kislev, the Geula of Chanukah, was Geula Shnasa Bizmana Galus. It happened during Galus. Nothing changed. It wasn't like it was. I mean, the Beis Hamikdash was standing, but it happened in the time of Galus. That the second Beis Hamikdash wasn't. It happened in the time of Galus while the Jewish people were still in exile by the Greeks. That the same message, very few years the Jewish people had proper freedom in the second Beis Hamikdash. I mean, after Hanukkah bit under the Chashmonon, but it says like about Hanukkah, like it says about Purim, Akati Avdecha Achashverosh. We're still servants of Achashverosh, right? You can't, if you don't give 4-hour ceasefire, then you get a slap on the face. So everything Achashverosh says you have to do. We're still servants of Achashverosh. I know. They're
giving the 4 hours, but they want not just 3 days, but more than that.
Of course, that's what it means. We're still servants of Achashverosh. I know. Shagam b'ma'im the matzav shal galus. Avdei Achashverosh and ha'is geula. But what's the chiddush of Hanukkah? That there was a geula in the time of Hanukkah. In that time when we were navigating the wants and the service of Achashverosh, there was a geula. And therefore never changes. Because when you could find geula in the galus, right? So then that means it's not, you don't need to get out of your reality. It doesn't have to change totally in order for you to appreciate the geula. It's in the hard times you're finding a geula, and therefore it's everlasting. It doesn't have that. You don't need that zecher, the extra zecher. Yetzias Mitzrayim that the Yetzias Mitzrayim needs, the Hanukkah doesn't need. Kedisiv Medrash, the Medrash teaches us is atmoitze shekol hanesim ekruvu for Aaron lahikruv hanesim. The Medrash brings down, when it came to the dedication of the Mishkan, that all the servants, all the Nasiim, all the princes of the different tribes sacrificed to dedicate the tabernacle, and Aaron didn't, and he felt bad, right? He took it personal. He said, maybe because of my shortcomings, he never got out of the devastation of the Cheta Egel, and he thought maybe because God doesn't really appreciate my service, therefore the whole Shevet Levi doesn't get a sacrifice, a carbon because of me. Amalei Kadosh Baruch Hu, God said no. Amalei Kadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, God told Moshe, Lech Emer Aaron, go tell Aaron, Al Tisyar, don't feel like that, don't be worried. The Gedula Mizu Atem Tukan, I'm giving you something much greater than the dedication of the temple, of the tabernacle, by the sacrifices of the Nasim, of the princes. The Kachnemer, that's why what do we have right after the Parshas Nasai, and on Chanukah we read right into it, is L'chem Nemer Dabra Aaron V'amarte Lo V'aleis Chasaneres. God tells Aaron, when you're going to light the candles, HaKarbonis Kozman Shabbos Hamikdash Kaim Hem Nehoigim. Right, the sacrifices are only as long as the temple stands. As long as there's a temple, there's sacrifices. Avalaneres, but the candles, they're always going to be the candles. The lights are always going towards the base of the menorah. They never get nullified. So the chura, seemingly any movement, doesn't make sense. Means Hashem was trying to make Aaron feel better, was making Aaron feel better by telling him that what you do will be forever. Their karbanos only last as long as the temple's there. So seemingly the question is, what's the obvious question? How could you say that his is greater than theirs? The menorah also doesn't light when there's no Beis Hamikdash. It's coming to teach us not the candles of the menorah specifically that was lit in the Beis Hamikdash, but also teaching us about the Chanukah, the lighting of the Chashmonaim, of the descendants of Aaron. That through all the times, in the darkest of times, in the hardest of times, the Jewish people lit worldwide the Chanukah candle. The Rebbe says this comes to connect with Geshes. It emphasizes the connection between the general message of redemption, Kislev, of redemption within Galus, Geula Bezman HaGalus Gufa, La Geula HaMitis Vashlema, to the final redemption, Geula Nitchis Shein Achrei Galus, to the Geula that will have no other Galus afterwards. Meaning to say, what's the connection? Because the other Geula had a churban afterwards. They were only as long as their Jewish people were in good times. So the redemption was there, but the redemption of the Mashiach is going to be a redemption forever, like the redemption that happens during Golus. I think the Rebbe is in later years. The Rebbe explained this idea with much more detail. It could be he does it as well in this Farbrengen. The Rebbe says Dalit. V'yesh lahoisiv. The Rebbe says he would like to add. Shashayich is the Kislev Geula Nitchis She'enach Golos. This connection between the month of Kislev, that Kislev also has within it the idea that the Geula is forever, like the candles of the menorah, right? There was always we're lighting the menorah. To the idea of the Geula of the Mashiach, which is going to have the Geula Nitzchis, the everlasting Geula, that it will not have a Geula afterwards. Mispata expresses itself. Gam bekach also in this B'chodesh Kislev, Haisas Chalas Binyan Ba'isheni, Noisif Al Chanukas Achashminoi. That aside for the actual rededication of the Beis Hamikdash in the time of the Chashmonaim, middle of the time of the second, or towards the middle of the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, right after the story of Hanukkah, they had to rededicate the Beis Hamikdash because of the damage and impurities that were done by the Greeks. But also the beginning of the building of the second Beis Hamikdash by Ezra happened in the month of Kislev. It says in Chagai, which was one of the prophets that lived around that time, in the Esr Abba, in the 24th Litchi to the 9th month, Chodesh Shi is Chodesh Kislev, counting from Nisan, right? So you have Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. So Kislev is the 9th month, counting from Nisan. Min hayoim hazeh umayla miterem shum even behechel Hashem. So it says, like he says in the parentheses, miterem chazartem lashuv lahoisif hayisoid shisadtem meikoirish batalato. That we know that the Jewish people had a beginning of building before the story of Purim. There was the king of Koresh, right? So Koresh was the king. He allowed for the building of the Beis Hamikdash, and then it was stopped. And then it was redone and finished in the time of Ezra, done by Daryavish, which was either Daryavish, the son of Esther, but he was the one who gave permission to Ezra and Nehemiah to rebuild. So he added to the foundation what was done in the days of Koresh. So it happened on the 29th of the month of the 9th month, which is Kislev. From the day that the foundation for the Beis Hamikdash, the Heichel Hashem, the chamber of God, that they started now to again build on the foundation that was done in the days of Koresh. So Hainish b'chodesh Kislev b'chavdal by on the 24th of Kislev Haisai Safa Mechodesh Misaid Beis Sheni. They started to add to the foundation of the second Beis Hamikdash, which eventually built the second Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, the second Beis Hamikdash went through many remodels. It wasn't like the first Beis Hamikdash, which had a few remodels. We talk about it in Nevi'im. The second Beis Hamikdash had the major remodel by Herod, but and also by the Chashmonaim. But at least the first Beis Hamikdash, the first building of it was done in the 24th of Kislev. There's something connected to the second temple, more to the third temple, and then let's say versus the first temple. The third Beis Hamikdash that will be built. As it's known, as it says, and both of them, there's different opinions when it says in the, I think it's in, where is it? Is it in 13? Is Chagai also says, it says, Godel yiyakaved abayis hazeh achar min harishon. That the kavod, the respect, the beauty, or so to say, or the kavod, or the respect of the second, this later house, Achron, from the first one. The question is, what's the Achron? Is the Achron the third Beis Hamikdash or the second Beis Hamikdash? There's different opinion. So the Gemara in Isfarish, the Gemara explains, Pasuk Zal Bai Sheni, that the Pasuk applies this verse of Chagai, that the Gadol Yiyah Kavid Bayis Hazeh Achron Min Harishon, that there's going to be something greater about the second Beis Hamikdash than the first one, to be talking about the second Beis Hamikdash. Minal and the Hav Bai Sheni Gavaya Tafi. How do we know? Because the second Beis Hamikdash was a little taller. Because they had the pasuk from Chagai that says it has to be Gadol, so they built it a little taller than the first Beis Hamikdash. One says that it was a bigger building than the one Shlomo built, and the other one says that it lasted longer, means it stood longer. The destruction of the second temple was after, I think it stood a few hundred, maybe 50 or so years, more than the first Beis Hamikdash. Both opinions in the Gemara says that this is referring to the second Beis Hamikdash. The Chagai says Gadol Bayis Hazeh Achron is talking about the second Beis Hamikdash. But however, the Zohar teaches us in Sparish Pasuk Zeh Al Bai Shlishi, that's talking really about the third base of Mikdash. Mikdash the Isbani Aidei Kucha Brichu, that this is the base of Mikdash that will be built by Hashem. Yekaimin Lideri Darin, that's going to be for generations after generations. That it's going to be greater, this Achron, the next base of Mikdash, than the first one. That means the first one means than the first two ones. That the third one is going to be greater. The Kadma Ispani Aidei Davarnash, that what's going to be greater? Because the first ones were built by humans. Davarnash means people. The Chayah Aidei Kochabrichel, this one will be built by Hashem. There's many discussions about. The Rebbe goes into many times the idea of Migdash Adon Ukoni Yadecha, the pasuk that says that it's going to be the handiwork of Hashem. The Rebbe has a whole sicha that's going to be a combined effort. That's that the walls are going to come up from the ground, from the ones that sunk in by David HaMelech. It's a beautiful sicha. The Rebbe goes to apply the halacha of a person who puts in the doors makes the house. But either way, the tradition is that the base of Migdash is going to come down from heaven. What is the explanation between if it goes on the second base of Mikdash according to the Gemara or the third base of Mikdash according to the Zohar? What was special about the second base of Mikdash versus the first base of Mikdash was how they built it, right? The first base of Mikdash, David HaMelech, after Shaul and Shmuel came and became the conqueror, brought peace to the land, and till he put all the planning in with Shmuel, and comes his son Shlomo, which was Shalom in the world and the power of the Jewish people. It was known as the highest point of our history. They go and they build the glory of the first base of Mikdash. But the second base of Mikdash didn't have all that. It was built in the time of exile. They had to get permission from Korash, and Korash stopped it. And they had to get permission from Daryavish. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah goes into Daryavish, had all kind of demands. He wanted to change the interior. He wanted wood, even though you're not supposed to have wood in the base of Mikdash, right? So this is all Gullus attitude, right? Giving us directions every 5 minutes what we're supposed to be doing. So that's what the second base of Mikdash was built in the time of Gullus. The like a bais rishon shnivna kaidam hagalus, not like the first base of Mikdash which was built before the Gullus. Again, because it was built in Gullus, there's a uniqueness when you build something in difficult times versus when you build something in good times. When you build something in good times, it becomes very dependent on the good times. When you have something that's built in difficult times, in challenging times, in Gullus times, notwithstanding of the difficult and challenges of it, but what it has in it, it's forever, because there's very little that could throw you off your game, right? It was built in, Chatchila was built in hard times. Not only that, again, had the Jewish people not sinned in the second base of Mikdash, we could have kept that base of Mikdash that was built in Gullus times to be forever, but of course we corrupted it. But the third base of Mikdash is going to be beyond corruption. That's where the three base of Mikdashes go versus the three Aves, the three fathers. The difference between Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And this that we're saying again, that the connection of something that happens in a time of Gullus, the Geula of Kislev, Chanukah, the Rebbe is of course going to apply this to Yutas Kislev, because the whole point of Yutas Kislev is Mashiach, right? The whole point of Yutas Kislev is Lichshia Futzim and Esacha Chutza. That the whole point is that the in the Gullus we had a Geula which is going to bring us to the Geula of Mashiach. So Lachen Shaychas Hid Geula Nitzchis She'en Achra Gullus Mudgish Gam B'Hageula the Teres Achsidus Yutas Kislev. The Rebbe starts right here. This idea that in the time of Gullus we have a stronger Geula is connected to the idea of the Geula, the redemption of the Torah Chasidus that happened on the 19th of Kislev. Ubehegdim, as is known. How you doing? What was this whole story of Yutas Kislev? I just want to say an interesting point. I think that the Alter Rebbe was arrested during Sukkot, Chafa. During Sukkot, he was arrested. Right after Sukkot, I have to check again. And he was arrested until Yutas Kislev. So the whole time between Sukkot and Yutas Kislev was horrible days for the Hasidim of that year, right? Now we know the story afterwards. We'll celebrate Yutas Kislev. But that year, until the Alter Rebbe was released on the 19th of Kislev, we were in this very dark time. Now we didn't know that it would be with Alter Rebbe, right? So it's very similar to what we're holding today. The whole story of Yutas Kislev was a spiritual story. What was the reason why the Alter Rebbe was really arrested? The Russians didn't really care if the Alter Rebbe was teaching Hasidus. Is a Kitrik Alter Hasidus. was that in heaven there was voices that said they were against the teaching. Kitrik means is from the adversaries that were saying this. They were against the teaching of the Torah Chassidus, specifically the way they were being taught by the Alter Rebbe. That was awakened in the heavenly court. When the Alter Rebbe, together with the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid, were able to override that Kitrig. So Nisbatal HaKitrig L'mayla, but V'Torah Chassidus Nitzcha V'Zachsa B'Din, and the Alter Rebbe and his teachings and his method of teachings, one was victorious. So automatically the Russians, the Tsar let him out. Hidu HaSipur, as is known, when the Alter Rebbe sat in prison, in Petersburg, his Rebbes came to visit him from the world of the truth. Who are his Rebbes? The Magid and the Baal Shem Tov. The Alter Rebbe asks them, the Sibas Yeshivasi b'Master, why am I sitting in prison? And they responded to him, that in heaven there was a great adversary against him, specifically, that the Alter Rebbe is saying so much the teachings of Chassidus in abundance and in a revealed way. Other people were not doing that. So he asked, and when I get out of here, it means he was confident that he would leave. Maybe I should stop, because the kitchuk, maybe I'm behaving wrong. So the famous answer that the Magid and the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov told him, Al tafsik, don't stop. On the contrary, say more. We know that the Alter Rebbe went to a whole other level of elaborating the teachings of Chassidus was after the time of Petersburg, and we see it in ourselves when we learn the difference between the Maimarim of Torah Or, which are traditionally from the early, before Yitis Kislev, a lot of them, to the Maimar, or right after Yitis Kislev, to the Maimarim of the Likutei Torah, which are very long, with more elaborate, because it was said after Yitis Kislev. The explanation is, meaning to say that they answered him that not that you're compromising, that's why you're going to get out. You're going to get out because you're going to win, that your methods are right. And if your methods are right, of course you continue and you do even more. Based on what we said before, why did the story of Yitis Kislev fall out on Kislev? Why did this whole thing happen in Kislev? This idea that in the redemption of the teachings of Chassidus was in such a way of that we have to spread the well springs of Chassidus outwards. That's all about, it's not another teaching of Torah. This is all about Mekarevis, to bring forth and to affect the coming of Mashiach. And we just said before that Kislev is connected to the idea of Mashiach because it's everlasting. Therefore, it falls out on Kislev. About a time where there's redemption in Golus, which means that it has everlasting strength. That the Gula will be forever. Nothing could shake it. As it's going to be when Mashiach comes, that's going to be forever. So I say, I had a personal experience myself that when I got married, I built a sukkah. So my luck had it that I built a sukkah. It became very bad weather, and it was very hard for me to build a sukkah, and the sukkah kept on collapsing. So I had to make it very strong. And then it all ended up being l'schus, because in that Shabbos Sukkos, a surprise storm came to Yerushalayim. No one was expecting it. And by Sunday morning, by Shabbos morning, everyone's sukkahs were all over the street. My sukkah stood because I built it in hard times, so I had to make it very strong. You see that when you build something in hard times, you have to strengthen it, and therefore it can withstand challenges. Sif Vav, the Rebbe continues. So this is all about the Yitis Kislev, and this is all about the month of Kislev. What does it have to do with Chayah? We explained before in the Maimer, what does the Torah say? And then if it says her years, then it says these are Shnei Chayah, these are the days of Sarah. Why does it have to repeat itself? The Rebbe explained in the Maimer, like I said before in the beginning of the class, that Sarah nimshach inin habitl gam ba'ilus biyah. Sarah came here to fix the sin of Chava. And what did it mean to fix the sin of Chava? That she has to bring bittul, self-nullification, in the worlds of biyah, in the worlds of creation. It means for a person to have bittul, self-nullification, in the world of Atzilus, where everything's obvious God, that's not a chiddush. Of course you have bittul, because by definition you're batul. Well, you're nothing, right? But to have bittul in the world of separation, where this challenge is, that's a chiddush, and that's what Sarah affected. Like again, the chiddush of geula in the time of galus. The Metzias of Murgish that she should bring out in the world of Metzias, in the world of where people feel like there's something, in the world of Murgish, in the world people feel like there's something. And that Sarah's ability to implement a bittul, even in the times of even in the places of separation, is what empowered us in the time of Galus. That we could bring everlasting life. Means we don't get shocked, we don't get thrown off our groove because of Galus, because we draw strength from Sarah, who was able to bring bittul even in challenging times. What does it mean to have bittul? That through bittul, to make for Hashem a resting place. To bring the essence of God even in the dark places. That's why we read about the greatness of Sarah, right? In the Shabbos that we bless the month of Kislev. The Shabbos is what empowers and gives blessing to the whole month of Kislev. The month we bless Kislev is the Shabbos we bless Kislev is the Shabbos and Varchim of Chayah, like this year in by us in our calendar. This empowers us that we should be able to have geula in galus. Geula shekiyum that lasts forever. Look how everyone's falling apart. I don't want to talk politics over here, but look, and rightfully so, everyone's falling apart from all the anti-Semitism. Everyone's getting crushed. Everyone's losing their minds. The whole basis of a lot of people's security is being challenged. Why? Because it was based on good times. When your foundation of security is based on good times, you kick the wall a bit. Everyone gets nervous. But the idea is that in the galus to build geula, that strengthens. I'm not saying that a person has to look for hard times, but the fact is like that. Zakshuru payelis is a geula amitis vashlem, and it gives a connection to the everlasting geula. But Mashiach comes is going to be the culmination of the concept of the idea of the creation, which is to make a dira. And where do we have the strength to be strong in all times? We draw from Sarah, like the Maimon discusses, that Sarah, right? Chava was in good times. When she got to good times, she got up to no good. So the Sarah had to go and in her challenges, even more than Avram, to go and to be a strong yid, and she gave us the power that we should be able to be strong Jews in all times. Now the Rebbe said, what's the lesson we could take from this? The lesson is like this. Like Chassidus says, everything comes down to bottom line. What does this mean in our service to Hashem? A person starting this Shabbos, this should be a good resolution for us here today by this year. Starting from Shabbos Mevarchim Chodesh Kislev. What is the resolution we have to take? That if this is the month that strengthens the idea of Yitas Kislev, that to bring Mashiach is to spread the well springs of Chassidus, we must take a resolution to add in the spreading of the well springs of Torah Chassidus outwards. Like my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe said, also he said this specifically on the Shabbos of Chayah in the year Tavshin Aleph, which is equivalent to 1940 going into 41. A chassid, daf machin, nach a chassid. Imagine 1940-41, the previous Rebbe just made it out of Europe during the Nazis. A chassid, daf machin, nach a chassid. The job of a chassid is to make another chassid. Chassid sarach lasis oid chassid. I mean, it's not good enough that it's not that you being a chassid, is what have you done to make another chassid. V'haisiv levar, and he explained in the Sicha on Shabbos Parshas Chayah, Tavshin Aleph, Shaha mitzvah harishayna b'Torah hi pru revu. What is the first mitzvah that God tells Adam and Chava? Be fruitful and multiply. Means v'kivan shagam haseder b'Torah hi b'diuk, and because, like we learned many times, that everything in Torah is exact. So if Torah's first commandment to mankind is to be fruitful and to multiply, and he says that's why in the Gemara in Halacha we apply if something is next to something else to learn different laws, but everything's exact. Moving Shahira Torah Milashan Ra. So therefore the lesson has to be from Torah. What does it mean that to be fruitful and to multiply is the first commandment in Torah? What is the first thing that a person is asked? Is what is required of a person The Eshe Zachvas Memont, the first thing that we're asking, we're demanding of a person is, Shehudi Yasa Oid Yehudi. Number one, did you make other Jews? Did you make another chassid? Ein Yid Zamach Nacha Yid. One Jew should make another Jew. What have you done to make more chassid, to bring the light of chassidus to another person? Vesayim, and the previous Rebbe finished in the talk of Tafshin Aleph. This ability that a chassid has to make another chassid, the Rebbe says an amazing thing. That how does a chassid have the ability? Who am I? I'm just a simple person. You want me to go out and make another chassid? I'm trying to be a chassid myself. Is because every chassid has a shtickle, as a bit of the essence, which is the Rebbe. And if the Rebbe can make another chassid, you can make another chassid. The Rebbe says, I want to add, this is applicable to men, women, anyone who has an ability to do something. The Rebbe says, he adds, this idea, the service of be fruitful and multiply. Each chassid should make another chassid. The Rebbe says, the Rebbe turns it inwards. It's not just that you should go find another person and make that person a chassid. It also means to make another person within yourself a chassid. And he explains, what does this mean? When it comes to the righteous, which are obviously the few, as it's brought down, the Tanya mentions this. God saw that there's only a few tzaddikim in history, so he sprinkled them out over history. When it comes to tzaddik, so tzaddik, of course, the job of a tzaddik is, because the tzaddik is perfect, or the tzaddikus is perfect, so he or she they're focused on other people. When it comes to the regular person, the Beinani, should say that that's the avoid of the regular person. He quotes from Tanya that the midah of the Beinani is the midah of the regular person, and that's the avodah that everyone should try to follow. You do a piskim halavai Beinani, as is known by Chassidim, they would say, I wish I would be a Beinani. It also means for yourself. And he says, what does this mean? The Rebbe has an amazing thing. That you have an animal soul. It means your chassid identifies with your godly soul. But you have a friend, and your friend, or an enemy, whatever you want to call him, a frenemy, is called the nefesh bahamas, your animal soul. You have to make him a chassid. This is the regular person that's within you. The non-chassid in you is your nefesh bahamas, is your animal soul on all levels. It could be from just wanting to eat a piece of steak, or to even trying to do things in Torah, but it's not a chassid. It's the nefesh bahamas. As it's brought down the Torah, what is the goy to the person? It's not the goy outside. It's the goy within you. The goy within you. That's your non-Jew within you that wants to do non-Jewish things. You have to take upon yourself. Be fruitful and multiply. Make your nefesh bahamas a chassid. Last is chassid. Make your nefesh bahamas a chassid. Like it says in the Maimer, the Maimer, the whole beautiful point of the Maimer is that a person has to bring bittul, self-nullification, in what you feel, in the feelings of life. The things that you feel that you want to do something. Bring bittul into that. Not that you shouldn't do it, but bring bittul into what you're doing. How do you bring bittul into hergish, into what you're feeling? That means to make your nefesh bahamas into a chassid. It means you're not killing the nefesh bahamas. The nefesh bahamas is there, but now the nefesh bahamas is a chassid. The non-chassid within you. Last is the chassid shaydeza nishma kavana. The dir b'tachtonim. Through that, when we start turning our nefesh bahamas into a chassid, we know the nefesh bahamas is much more powerful than the nefesh alikis, right? It's like the animal, it's strong, has much more energy. You turn that into a chassid, whoa, we're running. We're going to run together to Mashiach, the Karev. One Shabbat, a good Shabbos, a good Shabbos. We should see the Gula Mitzvah Shleima Mamish right now. Laila Tov, good Shabbos.